Hey, everyone. And just, hey, morning. And just one other thing I want to add on top of that, too. If you're new with us and you have not yet filled out a card that we can just get your email, I love sending out emails. I know that probably sounds kind of crazy. I love emails. They're great. But I send out a weekly email just letting you know what's going on with our community, things we're doing. And it's also just a way to get connected. You can reach out to us for any needs you might have. So if you have one of those cards, fill those out. You can drop those in the boxes at the back. Those boxes, as I said last week, they also are built and constructed in such a way that they can also receive donations in them too. But as Michelle said, there is no they, and we are a community that is funded and resourced by the community itself. So if you love what we're about here and you want to support us, we really appreciate it. You can do that the old-fashioned way, or you can go to our website, loveperiod.org, scroll down to the Donate tab, and you'll figure out how to do that there. But let's get started. And I just have some cool news. We just recently, Aldea got sponsored by LaCroix, so I have to drink one of these every sermon. I got to do it. Got to do what you have to do. But only this flavor. Pamplemousse can get out of my face, okay? I don't want to deal with it. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. So last week, we started our Bloom series. And Bloom is this metaphor, this idea of becoming who we are, becoming our fullest selves. And we started and laid the foundation for that last week by recognizing that we need community. We need one another, and we need a sense of connectedness to Source, realizing that we are connected to this planet in visible and invisible ways, just like trees. We are a lot like trees. We need the community in order to be the best version of ourselves. And so today we're really going to dive into the bloom and what it means to become who we already are, which sounds a bit like a paradox. So I'm excited to journey there with you today. And what I want to start with is really for us to look backwards. And I want to ask you, do you remember when you were young, the thing that you wanted to be when you grew up? Do you remember? Yeah? Anyone want to share?
Teacher. Entertainer. Doctor. Veterinarian.
I love it. I was in preschool, and I had a preschool graduation, and at this graduation, I know they reward you for finishing preschool. It's great. Millennial. And so they had each student get up and share what they wanted to be when they grew up. And so it was my turn finally, and I got up to the microphone and I said, when I grow up, I want to be an ice cream man. I think I thought that it was going to be a lot of free ice cream and just driving around and making people happy. Also around that time, preschool age, when I grew up, I knew that I wanted to marry my mom. Both of those were dreams that I did have to give up at some point. With the ice cream man, I just realized it wasn't as glamorous as I thought I had built it up to be. And then with my mom, there's a lot of things there. Some legality and things. But sometimes we do become the things that we think we're going to be when we grow up, right? Some of you listed off things, and maybe for you did end up pretty close to what you thought. Maybe for some of you, you're glad you did not become the thing that you initially wanted when you were young. Maybe you married the type of person that you thought you would when you were young. Maybe you didn't, or maybe you didn't get married at all, and maybe you're glad, maybe you're not. Maybe you look back at your life with a little bit of regret, or maybe you look back and you're glad that things did not go exactly the way you planned. But no matter where you lie on that spectrum, your story is not over. You are still in process of becoming. And that is what the bloom is, the flower blooming, that I believe that in some ways we are always becoming, that there is always the opportunity, not the guarantee, but the opportunity for us to approach greater flourishing and greater authenticity. And one of my favorite examples of that is our own universe that, 14 billion years ago, there was an explosion and this mass empty space was created and these particles were spread out across the ether. And over billions and billions of years through gravity, these particles were pulled together, joining one another, and they became more and more interesting things. They became things like planets and stars. And eventually, one of these stars and one of these planets developed the kind of relationship where that planet was the exact right spot, and life developed on that planet. And not only did life develop, but it became more and more complex. And look at us now. Look at our brains. Look at our eyes. We have such complex abilities. It's 2022. We have a lot of cool things. We have self-driving cars. We did it. I was actually in a Tesla recently, and she knows. I was in a Tesla recently, and I found out that Teslas have a fart function. That you can actually command a Tesla to fart. So it's 2022. We started as nothing, and now, 14 billion years later, we have self-driving cars that fart. It's a miracle. Look at us. Look at us. It's a beautiful thing. Now, the universe is in process of becoming and getting more and more complex. And we as humans are doing the same. And I love when we as humans find language to talk about that process. And one of my favorite stories that really conveys a moment in history when this new way of talking about our reality and this new way of talking about the divine came about. And this is in Exodus with Moses and the burning bush. See, Moses, this is really the beginning of the journey that we see happening in the Old Testament. Genesis, though that's the first book in the Bible, it's really an oral history of the tradition of the Hebrew people. But the action really begins with Moses. And so Moses encounters this burning bush, and through it, the divine is speaking to him. And he asks a question of this burning bush that I think is a pretty good question. It's a question I think I would ask. He asks the burning bush, which is the divine. He asks, when people ask me what happened, who do I say you are? Because if I just tell them that I just talked to a burning bush, they're probably going to ask me, like, did you smoke that burning bush? I need a name. Exodus 3:14, God said to Moses, I am who I am. Tell the people of Israel, I am sent me to you. This word I am in biblical Hebrew translates to ehi, which means I will be what I will be.
Hey everyone, Jake here. Thank you so much for listening to today's message. We are Aldea, a spiritual community here in Tucson, Arizona, and we're just so excited about what we do and really sharing and spreading this message, love period, which really means for us that love is our highest value beyond any doctrine or dogma. What binds us together as a community is love. And so if that's something that you're also passionate or excited about, whether or not you are local to this area, I just want to encourage you. We really thrive off of donations. And so if you like what we're about and you're enjoying this message, anything helps. We so appreciate it. All you need to do is head to loveperiod.org, scroll down, click on the donate button, and then there will be instructions there for either a one-time or a monthly gift. And I'm going to also link that right here so you can see that. And we really appreciate you listening. Now let's get back to the message.
And in biblical Hebrew, there's something interesting about the nuances of biblical Hebrew, that in English, we are used to a present tense, but in biblical Hebrew, there is no present tense in the way that we understand it. So when we see the word I am who I am, or I will be who I will be, what we're really seeing is I will become what I choose to become. That we can look at this word I am as another way of saying becoming, that the divine is still in process. The divine is becoming. So when we bloom, when we become who we are joining not only the universe, but we are joining the divine in this journey of continuing to grow, continuing to evolve. And yet what we don't always know is what will we become? What is it that you and I are moving towards and becoming? Sometimes we don't have control over that most of the time. And often it's more unique than we could possibly imagine. And so I wanted to show you, we're in this series, Bloom, we're talking about flowers. I wanted to show you some very unique flowers that I came across. And just think about yourself when you see these pictures, that we're all these unique flowers. I love these guys. These are called the monkey-faced orchids. There were some cuter pictures. These ones look kind of scary. They look pretty angry. Beautiful. Whatever shade of lipstick that is, I think we need to sell that. This one's a little scary. And this one I think looks yummy. I would eat this. This looks like a alien apple pie, is what I would think. So, these are all, they're perfect, right? You can't say, oh, that should have been different. They just are what they are. You ever meet that person that you look at them and you go, wow, they are so them. They are exactly who they are. And it has nothing to do with perfection. It's not about being perfect, because none of us can achieve that. No, it's about owning who you are and embracing the things that make you you, even if they're a little bit strange. So what is it that makes you you? Is it your emotions? Is it the ideas you have, the way you think? Is it this physical body that you're showing up in? Is it your sexuality? Is it the things in this life that you love, that you enjoy? Or is it the things and the injustices that you recognize, that you look out in the world and you say, those people over there need justice. Those people over there are repressed. Those are also part of what makes you you. And I want to stand up here and really speak for religion, because we are a spiritual community and we are exploring ideas, and we explore ideas from different religions. And so I do want to address that religion as a whole, it can stand in the way of your authenticity, or it can support it, depending on the circumstances. It can do both. And the thing to really look out for, the thing to be wary of, is shame. That when shame is being used against you, when shame is telling you, this part of you is wrong, this part of you, you need to change this if you want to belong. That's when you really need to be aware that you might be seeing a version of religion that is trying to mold you and conform you into something that you're not, and to try to take these things that make you you and make you unique, and they're trying to change those things. Now, there's a difference between shame and boundaries, because if someone walked in this room right now and started saying very hateful things, then in order to protect others in this room, we would need to ask that person to leave. But that's not shame. Those are healthy boundaries kicking in. Shame is something that is weaponized against you, and it's something that we often even weaponize against ourselves. And it says something like, if you want to belong, if you want to be accepted, then you have to change who you are. Or if you're not willing to do that, then you need to live your life in isolation. You need to live your life alone. Shame isolates us. And what I want to be here as a community, Aldea, I want to be a place of support. I want to be a place of encouragement. I want us to encourage one another to be exactly who we are, because frankly, when I think about a community where all of us have to believe and think exactly the same way, it just feels a bit boring to me, and it's something that I'm not interested in. So I'm so happy that we are a community that is not that way. What are some of the ways that shame can be used against us? Well, you might have been told that your sexuality doesn't fit within the religious norms around you. Maybe you've heard these messages that society tells us what body types are and are not acceptable. Gender norms tell us the kind of emotions that are okay for a woman and are okay for a man. Which, as a side note, I can't cry. I want to. I really want to. I try. I do everything I can to make myself cry, but it's a struggle. I mean, I can cry. I can do it. I see your faces. You're like, is he human? No, I mean, I can cry, but like I want to be able to cry more openly. And so often I'll in order to try to get myself to cry, because it's like sometimes you need to let it out, but I'll be like, I can't do it. And I can't, especially have a hard time doing it in front of other people. So often I'll like get in my car and I'll try to put on like really sad music or a podcast. Sometimes like a sad podcast will really get me. And so I'll just do that. I'll just like go in my car and I'll like, you can do it, Jake. You can cry. It's safe. But these are gender norms. These are internalized ideas about what it means to be a man that I've internalized from society for so long that I don't even let myself feel what I actually feel. Maybe it's your likes and your dislikes that we often look to those around us to even make sense about what's acceptable for us to enjoy in this world. Going back to the car, I will spend time in the car, and this is another weird thing, I don't allow myself to listen to music that I know I would like, but for some reason there's like another judge voice that comes in. It's like, you shouldn't, like for example, I would probably love to listen to Taylor Swift or Katy Perry on my own and blast it in my car. But then there's this other voice that comes in, it's like, don't do it. And it's like, no one's even there. I don't know. I need help. Maybe this is you take from this what you want. I think what I'll take from this message today is I'm going to go, and as I'm driving away, you're going to hear me just blasting Lady Gaga or something. It's this shame that we actually put on ourselves. It's a self-shame. Something that the younger kids are saying today when it comes to shame that we put on ourselves. It's like kind of it's a reclaiming of an old word that we call it something is cringy. When you look at yourself and you judge yourself and you say, oh, I don't like this about myself. So if you ever like look at something that you said, even if it was like last night, you're like, did I actually say that to that person? That would be considered cringy. Or better yet, if you look at your, a hairstyle you had 20 years ago and you're like, oh my gosh, I did my hair that way. Someone let me walk out of the hairdresser like that. You might say that it is a cringe hairstyle or cringy. I guess I'll just have to use myself as an example. I found some photos of myself that I would consider cringy. This is a blue leather jacket, and I feel like I don't know in what world, as a 14-year-old, I should have been okay wearing a blue leather jacket. So I look back at that and I judge myself a little bit, and I go, Jake, why did you think that was so cool? And why did you get professional photos of you taken in it? What is going on here? What is the context? This next look that I'm going to debut to you, I call Pirate Jesus. So I got a job on a cruise ship, and I think because of that, I thought that I was Johnny Depp. So I think I like grew and changed my beard in order to look like more of a cool pirate-looking guy or whatever. But it's like, what position was I in to think that I could make my own beard? So what was interesting is my boss at the time called me into his office and he said, Jake, you have 3 beards on your face. You have 3 different beards. I'm going to need you to pick one. You have to pick one beard and just commit to that. That was things were different after that day. What if it's not about getting rid of the parts of yourselves that are cringy? What if it's actually about examining the parts of you that are doing the cringing, the judging? It's interesting. There are these 2 parts of us. There's the part of ourselves that is just being and is just living, and then there's another part that stands at a distance and judges us, that we judge ourselves. Yet often that judge, it's not even us. Often that judge is an internalized voice. Maybe it's this internalized voice of your parents. Maybe it's the internalized voice of a pastor. But whatever it is something inside of us that I think we should question. That next time you go, oh, what's wrong with me? No, maybe you're fine. Maybe you should question the voice that's saying that. Becoming isn't about achieving something, because we all know achievements, they fade. And the hairstyle that's really cool right now, in 20 years it's not going to be cool. So it's not about achieving. Maybe becoming is about stopping our own judgment, our own shame that we pile on ourselves, which will in turn allow who we actually are to come through. But why is it that this is so difficult? You'd think it would be the easiest thing in the world. If I were to say, be yourself, it's one of the most commonly given pieces of advice we have. Be yourself. And yet, if you really break that down, be yourself, it's kind of an oxymoron. Shouldn't that be the easiest thing? What else could I be, right? And yet we have such a hard time with it. Become yourself. How do we do that? Well, there are a couple things that may be standing in the way of us doing that. The first is our environment. At times we need to make changes to our environment in order to allow ourselves to come through. I'll give you an example. I'm sure you all had hobbies that you picked up during lockdown, right? No? Baking? Pottery? Okay. No one? Okay. You all just hung out. Great. My mom, her hobby was gardening. And what she really liked to do was she liked to find plants that were especially, not doing well and liked nursing them back to health. Which, as I say it right now, maybe there's something there with her. Maybe she likes to do that with people too. But anyway, she likes to find plants that aren't doing well and nurse them back to health. And so there's this plant that she came across. And this is the plant. It's not doing super well. There's also a dinosaur there, but disregard the dinosaur. It's going to show up in every photo. So this plant wasn't doing well. So what she did was she replanted it. All she did was she took the same plant, she put it in a new pot, and she just moved it to a different part of the house that could receive some more sun. And in just a few weeks, this is what happened. And then a few weeks later, and then look at the dinosaur is very happy about that. Then a few weeks later, this, and now it became this beautiful flower. And she didn't even know that this was what it would become. It was kind of a mystery plant. Sometimes a little replanting can go a long way for us. Sometimes we just need to change it up, even in the minor ways, just changing little things. Maybe you can ask yourself, am I getting everything that I need right now in this current situation of life? Are there things that I need that if I could give myself those things, it might completely change the dynamic? And it might not be physical. It might be a change in your job, a change in your habits. Maybe you've already done that. Maybe you have an example in your life of a time when you just made a slight, small change, and yet it really brought about an incredible amount of authenticity to your life. Maybe it was a move. I know for us, for Olivia and I, just the simple fact of coming down here. I mean, I guess it's not so simple, but people move all the time, and yet for us, it's been such a life-changing experience. The change of a job, the change of location, and I feel like I have a new family and a new community, and these are not little things. What else is it that gets in the way of us becoming who we are? Well, I think we resist the hard times. We resist resistance. You've all heard this phrase, right? No rain, no flowers. It's the difficulties that show us who we are. It's actually the hard times in which our deepest, truest selves can come forth. A while back, I was in a session with my therapist, and I was having a rough time in life. I wasn't feeling too good about myself. And I said, what's especially hard about this right now is that I believe myself to be better than this. Like, I shouldn't be feeling this way, right? Like I know that I'm better than this. I know that I believe, and my beliefs about life I don't know, why am I just feeling so low when it's like I know that, everything's great and everything's fine or whatever, and I believe that I can be better. And I love what he said. It really changed my perspective. He said, if you never had hard times, if you never went through these periods of darkness or difficulty, how would you even know what you believe? How would you even know that you actually believe it? Sometimes we need to go through the rain to realize what it is we really believe. Rumi said this, until the juice ferments a while in the cask, it isn't wine. If you wish your heart to be bright, you must do a little work. See, the cask is a dark place. It's a place where no light can enter in. But sometimes we need to go through the dark places to ferment, to become that flavorful thing that we are. And lastly, I think that we are impatient. Sometimes we look at ourselves and we say, I should be in a different place than I am right now. And what we need is to give ourselves some patience. That there is a form of Chinese bamboo that when the seed goes into the ground, that for 5 years that seed remains underneath the soil. And for 5 years, as roots are growing, nothing sprouts even the littlest bit through that soil. And then on the 5th year, in just 5 weeks, that bamboo plant grows 90 feet into the air. Sometimes that's us, right? Sometimes we're in periods of life where we feel like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know where things are going. And then things can change on a dime. So be patient with yourself. I mean, the universe has been patient with you. The universe took 14 billion years to get to you. And no one's been you before, right? So who are you comparing it to? I think sometimes the way that we can honor this gift of life, the way that we can show our gratitude for being alive, for being given life and breath, the way for us to honor our existence is to embrace however we're showing up, to embrace our uniqueness, to accept the places that we're in, even the difficult places, and accepting that they are parts of our growth. And so I want to transition into a time of discussion right now. And as we do, I just want to give you an opportunity. If you're new here, this is an opportunity to meet some new people. You can just turn your chair, you can lean back, and you can take the next 10 minutes to answer these questions. First, when it comes to no rain and no flowers, what has been rain in your life? And what flowers came from that rain? And secondly, have you ever had an experience of being replanted, of changing things up? And how did that change things for you? So we're just going to take the next 10 minutes. I want to encourage you, it's a great opportunity to share. And if you don't feel comfortable sharing, there's some great stories to listen to. And if you're on Zoom, feel free to unmute yourself and share amongst yourself. Those questions are in the chat. So we're going to do that right now.